Hey everyone, Guy here. Just a quick unexpected intro to this video. I'd actually pretty much finished doing this video this time last week, but all the while I was actually doing it, I was in a horrendous amount of pain, and I actually had a bit of a medical emergency Wednesday last week, and I've been having doctor's appointments and hospital appointments every day since. It's quite intense. It's not life-threatening, don't worry about it, but it is like easily the worst pain I've ever been in my life. So if I sound a little bit off in this video, you know the reason why. I'll no doubt go into all the gory details of what the issue actually was in a future video. Anyway, don't worry about me, I'm fine, just in a bit of pain, and the recovery is going to be quite a long time. So without further ado, the video. You guys are unbelievable. Fine, I'll do it. There she is. Nope. Yes. So there we go. Last one. Okay then, let's glove up. Not because I'm worried about the materials or anything, my nails are just a bit of a mess at the moment, and I've got loads of cuts and scratches, so I don't want to subject you to that. So as you saw in the last episode, these came from the Wargame exclusive Miscast Bits box. I got hundreds of bits, dozens of minis, and even a few cool characters too for about 30 quid. Now there were a lot of comments requesting that I paint up either the Guts lookalike Space Marine model, the ridiculously caked out assassin, and the very generously proportioned trench soldiers. So I thought it'd be fun to let my Patreon supporters decide which got the dedicated follow-up video, and those absolute wrong-uns opted for the Death Core of Cleavage, as Sean put it. I'm also going to give these away to a lucky Patreon supporter too, and it could be you, you know, if you sign up. More on that later. Now, even though these models are technically rejects, I can't see any massive obvious faults with them, so let's clean up the gates with a hobby knife and crack on with the paint job. So, bases. The blind box didn't come with a base for every model, but having done this for a few years, I think I've got a few spare somewhere. Yeah, that'll do. Now for the trench vibes, I sliced up some craft matchsticks and superglued them down onto the bases to look a bit like raised boards, sliced up a few scenery offcuts and stuck them down, and then slathered on some Sterling mud texture paint. I think I'll get better results painting the minis and the bases separately, so I stuck the squad down on the top of some plastic cups with a tiny dot of superglue under each foot. Now in terms of paint job, I want to try and keep the armour and fatigues nice and drab, maybe similar to the Nuclear Winter style Deathcore model I painted a few years ago, so I can intentionally make the models pop with extra vibrancy and contrast on the exposed skin and eye lenses. Now trench brown I think would work really well for a first primer coat, mostly from the sides, not worrying about coverage from the top too much because that'll be coming later from this Dead Animal Bits primer. By the way, if you like the way these cover, I'll leave an affiliate link for the Colourforge in the description. That way you can get what you want, and I get a little kickback to help run the channel at no extra cost to you. There we go, more tonally interesting from the get-go. Lighter and desaturated from above, warmer and darker from underneath. The first thing I'm going to do is dilute some Occultist Cloak speed paint with about the same amount of flow improver to make a really thin wash that'll get into all of those recesses, making the shadows a bit richer thanks to the bluey purpley tone. Now actually for speed, I'm probably going to use mostly Army Painter speed paint for this. Gunner Camo for the armor plates. Again, not sponsored, but if you like the way they look, there's a link. Look, there's loads of links in the description, okay? Welcome to the bleak crater economy of 2025. Then some Satchel Brown on the patches, backpacks and holsters, belts, the leg wraps and any of the wooden bits. Some Black Legion contrast paint on the boots, pretty simple so far. And then some Broadsword Silver on the metal bits, the blades, gun barrels, rivets on the helmet, the belt buckles, that sort of stuff. Now I'm going to whip out Rakarth flesh, and I'm going to use this in a couple of different ways. First off, I'm going to use it slightly thin to sketch some highlights onto the fatigues, paying particular attention to any top facing areas, edges of collars, and yeah. Just a reminder, this wasn't my choice. I wanted to paint the Guts Berserk Space Marine, but no. I love Berserk, and I don't get to talk about anime enough. So I then mixed a tiny bit of Rakarth flesh into all of the previous colours I used to create a basic highlight colour. Again, trying to keep the generally pretty drab, desaturated look so that the skin and the eye lenses will really pop later. And by later, I mean now. I cracked out some new brushes that I bought at the Fen model show last weekend, Deluxe Sable brushes. Let's see how they fare. Fenn was awesome, by the way. If you're in the UK and you struggle with the massive crowds of Salute or the UK Games Expo, then the Fenn Model Show in Ely might be just your thing. It's small, but awesome, very manageable, with miniature hobby vendors of all kinds, classes and seminars, and a painting competition that absolutely blew me away. I mean, look at this stuff, honestly. I also won something in the charity raffle, this awesome base by Richard Sharp. What do you think I should put on it? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, these boobs aren't going to paint themselves. So first of all, some of this quite dark toned rumble skin to base coat their chests, making sure to get up in their necks too. Some of these angles are really awkward, but with a teeny tiny brush it makes it a little bit easier. Next up, Vallejo Dark Flesh mixed into that rumble skin and basically layering this quite thinly onto most places except for the depths of the cleavage and the little recesses in the neck. I then used some Peachy Flesh speed paint, not to tint the whole thing, but just to recess shade the border between the fatigues and the skin, and also a little line down the cleavage too. I then mixed in some white knuckle flesh into the Vallejo Dark Flesh to create a final highlight colour for the tops of the boobs. Now, I know you might be thinking that painting these models in particular, and especially stuff with this much exposed cleavage, might feel a bit silly or even too smutty to fit in with the serious grimdark Warhammer vibes, but have you ever actually looked at John Blanche's concept art or classic Warhammer art from like David Gallagher? I mean, it might not be obvious in the sanitized poster boy stuff that is at the forefront of the hobby these days, but Warhammer has always flirted with the absurd, the baroque, and the moderately smutty. And this kind of over-the-top design, in my opinion, I think it fits right into that weird tradition. Anyway, lenses. I'm going to carefully base coat all of the lenses with this AK Dirty Red, and then I'm going to thin that paint down with quite a bit of water to make a sort of red glaze, and then paint that over the edges of the eye lenses just to simulate the slight reddening that you'd get around a lightly glowing lens. Some bright Go Faster Red onto the main body of the lens, trying my best to aim it down towards the bottom more than the top. I'm struggling with this, to be honest. I think my next glasses prescription is definitely going to have varifocals. Man, I am definitely 40. And then, again, just trying my very best to add a tiny streak of off-white to the bottoms of the lenses that I can then spice up with some of this Green Stuff World fluorescent orange paint, painting it all over the whole lens just to give it a little pop. But it's so transparent, it just kind of acts like a glaze. Pretty impressed with those brushes so far. Okay, almost done. A little black wash on the silver metal parts to darken down the recesses and make them a little bit dirtier looking. The bases were primed with black and then had some trench mud sponged onto them for speedy application. Some tan dry brushed onto the decking, some off-white onto the stones and the terrain bits, and then a layer of thin burnt moss speed paint just painted onto random spots on the bases to give it a bit more tonal variation. And then it's just a case of snapping the models off their cups, sticking them onto the bases, black rimming the edges, and then using a tiny bit of that burnt moss again to mask the frosted looking glue bits. There we go, promise delivered. My supporters asked for the chest core of Krieg and you got him. And someone is actually going to get him, they're going to win them. In this envelope, there is a piece of paper. On that piece of paper, I've written the name of an Astra Militarum unit I randomly chose from the Warhammer website. The first person to correctly guess that unit in the Patreon post I make tomorrow, the day after this video comes out, will win them. I'll send them anywhere in the world too, so good luck. And obviously if you're not currently a Patreon supporter and you want a chance to win, follow the Patreon link to sign up from just £2 a month. You get a sweet merch discount, access to our Discord server, and honestly, I literally could not do this without the amazing support I get from all of you guys. So to figuratively show you how you put food on the table, this week's new supporters will be transformed into sausage chunks to be greedily gobbled up by my dog Nessa. Okay, you ready? This one's from Eri, Ollie Pipe, Leslie, Maple Tree, Matthew Myadmar Regan, Creeper, Mark Reed, and Johnny Jeans. You only missed one. There's no more. They're all gone.